Nexus Station hung in space like a massive metal flower, its arms reaching out around the bright neutron star that powered it. Ships from dozens of different worlds moved in and out of its docking bays. Some were sleek and silver, others had strange shapes that hurt to look at. All of them belonged to species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the station grow larger on the main screen. The Terra's Pride was not much to look at. Its hull was plain gray metal with scratches and dents from 3 years of space travel. Compared to the alien ships around them, it looked like a piece of junk. "Captain, we're getting a signal from the station," said So-Young Choi from her position at the communications desk. She was young but smart and could speak 17 different alien languages. "They want to know our business here." Hyunwoo straightened his uniform jacket. "Tell them we're here for the quarterly trade meeting. Captain Hyunwoo Park of the Terran Federation ship Terra's Pride." So-Young spoke into her headset in the common galactic language. After a moment, she looked up with a frown. "Sir, they're laughing." On the main screen, Bo-Ra Kim pulled up the communication channel. The alien speaking was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. Its name was Teclon, and it ran the docking operations for Nexus Station. Behind it, other aliens were pointing at their ship and making sounds that were clearly laughter. "Humans," Teclon said in heavily accented common language. Yes, we remember you. The new species with the tiny ships. Dock at Bay 77. Try not to crash into anything important." The channel cut off, and more laughter could be heard, from other ships on the open frequencies. Hyunwoo felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. "Take us to Bay 77, Bo-Ra." Bo-Ra Kim, their navigator, had been plotting courses between stars since she was old enough to read a star chart. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. "Yes, sir. Beginning docking approach." As they moved closer to the station, more alien ships took notice of them. A massive Valkyrian battlecruiser called the Dominion's Edge hung nearby like a metal mountain. Its captain, Admiral Zekthon, appeared on an open channel that all ships could hear. "Look what the cosmic winds have blown in," Zekthon said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "The humans and their toy ship. I wonder if they brought spare parts this time." More laughter filled the communication channels. A Zephyrian merchant named Veltar joined in from his sleek trading vessel. "At least they painted it this time. Last year it looked like it had been through a meteor shower." In the engineering section below, Tae-Min Lee gripped his tools tighter. He had worked on this ship for 5 years, keeping it running with spare parts and clever fixes. Every insult felt like a personal attack. "Captain," he said over the internal comm, "just say the word and I can show them what this toy ship can really do." "Easy, Tae-Min," Hyunwoo replied. "We're here to trade, not fight." But the mockery continued. As they approached the docking bay, alien crews pressed against observation windows to watch the human ship. Some took pictures. Others placed bets on whether the humans would be able to dock without help. Kixera, a Nexari captain with silver, scales and glowing eyes, spoke to her crew loud enough for the open channels to pick up. "Look how they struggle with simple docking procedures. How did such a primitive species even achieve faster-than-light travel?" Her science officer, a younger Nexari with darker scales, laughed. "Probably found it in the wreckage of a real starship." Bo-Ra's hands trembled slightly as she guided the Terra's Pride into the docking bay, but her movements were perfect. The ship settled into place with barely a vibration. The docking clamps engaged with a soft thunk. "Docking complete," she announced. Hyunwoo stood up and adjusted his uniform again. Around him, his crew prepared for another humiliating trade. Meeting, Dong-Hyun Yoon, their science officer, gathered his data tablets. Hye-Jin Nam, who handled security and tactics, checked her sidearm. "Sir," Hye-Jin said quietly, "they're treating us like a joke again." Hyunwoo nodded. He had hoped that 3 years of successful trading would earn them some respect. Instead, it seemed like the other species saw them as amusing pets. "I know, but we're here to represent humanity. We do that with dignity." So-Young looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm monitoring the alien communication networks. They're making jokes about us. Some of them are planning to record the trade meeting for entertainment." The captain felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. They had a job to do. We knew this wouldn't be easy when we took this mission. Humanity is still new to the galactic community. We have to prove ourselves. Taemin's voice came over the comm from engineering. Maybe we should show them what we're really capable of, sir. Not yet, Hyun-woo said. He thought about the special cargo hidden deep in the ship's lower levels. Not yet. Outside the ship, alien dock workers approached with equipment to inspect the Terra's Pride. They moved slowly, as if they were dealing with something that might break. One of them, a six-legged creature with purple fur, spoke to its partner in a voice loud enough for the ship's sensors to pick up. "Be careful with the human ship," it said in a mocking tone. "It might be held together with metal tape and hope." Its partner, a floating jellyfish-like being, made a sound like bubbling water that served as laughter. "I heard their engines are so weak they have to slingshot around stars to build up speed." Inside the ship, the human crew listened to these insults in silence. They had heard it all before. Jokes about their technology, their appearance, their short time in space. The aliens saw them as the newest and weakest members of the galactic community. But none of the aliens bothered to scan the Terra's Pride carefully. If they had, they might have noticed some very strange things. The ship's power readings were much higher than they should be for a vessel of its size. There were sections of the hull that didn't match any known human technology. And deep in the cargo bay, something hummed with energy that no scanner in the galaxy was designed to detect. As the crew prepared to leave the ship for the trade meeting, Hyun-woo gathered them together in the main corridor. "I know this is hard," he said. "I know they don't respect us. But remember why we're here. We're not just representing ourselves. We're representing all of humanity." Bo-Ra nodded. "Yes, sir. Every human who dreams of traveling to the stars," Taemin added. "Every child who looks up at the night sky and wonders what's out there," So-young said. Dong-hyun adjusted his data tablets. "And every scientist who believes we can find our place among the stars." Hae-jin checked her equipment one last time. "We'll show them what humans are made of, sir." The airlock door opened, and the crew of the Terra's Pride stepped onto Nexus Station. Around them, aliens of every shape and size continued their business. Most barely glanced at the humans. Those who did notice them whispered to each other and pointed. As they walked toward the main conference hall, Hyun-woo could hear the voices behind them. "Look, the humans brought their whole crew this time. Maybe they're hoping to impress us with numbers. I wonder what primitive goods they're trying to trade now." The captain kept walking, his back straight and his head high. Behind him, his crew did the same. They had been through this before, and they would get through it again. What the aliens didn't know was that this time would be different. This time, if pushed far enough, the humans might just have to show them what impossible really looked like. The main conference hall of Nexus Station was enormous. Its ceiling curved high above like the inside of a giant egg, and hundreds of different aliens filled the seats. Each species had its own section with special air, light, or gravity to keep them comfortable. The humans sat in a small area near the back, where the lighting was bright and the air was the right mixture for their lungs. Captain Hyun-woo Park looked around at the other representatives. There were tall, thin Valkyrians with their blue skin and 4 arms. Floating Nexari with their silver scales that caught the light. Zephyrians who looked almost like humans but with golden eyes and perfect features. Dozens of other species, all of them older and more advanced than humanity. The meeting had been going on for 2 hours, and so far, every trade proposal the humans made had been rejected or laughed at. Their medical supplies were too basic. Their entertainment programs were too simple. Their manufactured goods were acceptable but not impressive. Veltar, the Zephyrian merchant, leaned forward in his floating chair. "Honored delegates," he said in his smooth voice, "I must ask a question that has been troubling many of us. Why are we still pretending that humans belong in these meetings?" A wave of murmurs spread through the hall. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up for the humans. Admiral Zekthon stood up from the Valkyrian section. He was even bigger in person than he had appeared on the communication screen, with scars across his face and arms that spoke of many battles. "The Zephyrian makes a good point," he said. "We have been patient with humanity for 3 years now. but they continue to bring us nothing but primitive goods and simple ideas. So young Choi started to stand up, her face red with anger, but Hyunwoo put a gentle hand on her arm. "Not yet," he whispered. Zekthon continued speaking, his voice carrying easily through the hall. "Every species in this room has contributed something meaningful to galactic civilization. The Nexari gave us gravity manipulation. The Zephyrians perfected quantum tunneling. My own people developed antimatter containment. What have the humans given us? Metal tools and recorded music?" Laughter rippled through the audience. "Kixra," the Nexari captain from earlier, called out from her section. "Perhaps they could entertain us with their primitive art while the real species conduct business." More laughter followed. Hyunwoo felt his crew tense beside him. Taemin's hands were clenched into fists. Bo-Ra stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. Dong-hyun held his data tablet so hard his knuckles were white. Theklon, the station master, stood up at the central podium. "The Valkyrian admiral raises an important point," he said. "Perhaps it is time to discuss whether humanity has earned its place in the Galactic Commerce Coalition." "I object," Hyunwoo said, standing up. His voice was calm, but carried clearly through the hall. "Humanity has fulfilled every requirement for membership. We have maintained peaceful relations with all species. We have honored every trade agreement. We have caused no problems." "Causing no problems is not the same as contributing solutions," Zekthon replied. "A child causes no problems when it sits quietly in the corner, but that does not make it an adult." The comparison to children brought more laughter from the audience. Hyunwoo felt heat rise in his face, but he kept his voice level. "Then what would you have us do to prove ourselves?" Veltar smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "An excellent question, human. In fact, there is an ancient tradition for situations like this. The demonstration of capability." The laughter in the hall died away. Suddenly, the aliens looked more serious. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others leaned forward with interest. Theklon nodded slowly. "The demonstration of capability has not been called for in over 200 years. Are you certain you wish to invoke this tradition, Veltar?" "I am," the Zephyrian said. "If the humans truly believe they belong among us, let them prove it. Let them demonstrate technology or knowledge that adds value to our community." Zekthon crossed his arms and smiled. "I support this proposal. If humanity can show us something impressive, something that proves they are more than primitive newcomers, then we will welcome them with full honors. But if they cannot—" He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the hall understood. Failure would mean humanity would be removed from the coalition. They would lose access to galactic trade routes, to advanced technology, to the community of spacefaring civilizations. Kixra spoke up from the Nexari section. "What could they possibly show us? We have seen their ships, their weapons, their computers. All of it is centuries behind our own technology." "Perhaps they have developed something new in the past 3 years?" suggested a voice from the Altarian section, but even that speaker sounded doubtful. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. Dong-hyun was staring at him with wide eyes. They both knew what he was thinking about. Deep in the Terra's pride, locked away in the most secure part of the ship, was something that could change everything. But revealing it would also change everything for humanity. There would be no going back. "What are the terms of this demonstration?" Hyunwoo asked. Theklon consulted a datapad. "The species being tested has 24 hours to prepare. They must demonstrate technology, knowledge, or capability that provides clear benefit to the galactic community. The demonstration is judged by representatives of all major species present." "And if we refuse?" Hyejin asked. "Then you admit that humanity has nothing of value to offer," Zekthon said. "You would be asked to leave the coalition immediately." The hall fell silent. All eyes were on the small group of humans. Hyunwoo could feel the weight of their stares, could almost hear them thinking that surely the humans would back down now. Surely they would admit defeat and slink away. "Captain," So Young whispered, "we don't have to do this. We can find another way." "What other way?" Taemin asked quietly. "They've made up their minds about us. This might be our only chance to change that." Dong-hyun leaned close to Hyunwoo. "Sir, If we're thinking about what I think we're thinking about, are you sure? Once we show them, we can't take it back. Hyun-woo looked around the hall again, at the smug faces of the Valkyrians, at the amused expressions of the Zephyrians, at the cold, calculating stares of the Nexari. 3 years of insults and dismissal had led to this moment. "We accept the challenge," he said. The words seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Then the hall erupted in surprised chatter. Some aliens seemed shocked that the humans had accepted. Others looked pleased, as if they were looking forward to an entertaining failure. Veltar clapped his hands together. "Excellent! This will be most educational. I look forward to seeing what primitive surprises the humans have prepared." Zekthon laughed. 24 hours to prepare something that will impress species who have been masters of technology for millennia. This should be amusing. "The demonstration will take place in Cargo Bay Alpha," Teclon announced. "All species representatives are invited to attend. The humans will have access to their ship and whatever equipment they require." As the meeting began to break up, aliens clustered together to discuss what they had just witnessed. Some were placing bets on how quickly the humans would fail. Others were making jokes about what primitive technology they might try to show off. The human crew walked back toward their ship in silence. Around them, aliens watched and whispered. Some followed them, clearly hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever the humans were planning. "Sir," Bora said quietly as they reached the airlock to their ship, "do you really think we should do this?" Hyun-woo paused at the door to the Terra's Pride. Beyond it lay the secret that could change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Or destroy them if it went wrong. "Bora," he said, "how long have humans been dreaming of flying to the stars?" "Thousands of years, sir." "And how long have we actually been doing it?" 3 years. He smiled grimly. "Then maybe it's time we stopped worrying about what's impossible and started showing the galaxy what humans can really do." The airlock door closed behind them, and the crew of the Terra's Pride prepared to change the universe. The crew of the Terra's Pride gathered in the main conference room, a small space with a round table and chairs that had seen better days. Through the porthole, they could see alien ships moving around the station. Some of them had moved closer, as if their crews wanted to get a better look at whatever the humans were planning. "So," Tae-min said, leaning back in his chair, "we've really done it this time. We've backed ourselves into a corner with no way out." "There's always a way out," So-young replied. "We could withdraw from the challenge. Say we need more time to prepare." Hee-jin shook her head. "That would be the same as admitting defeat. They'd kick us out of the coalition anyway." Bora pulled up a holographic display showing the specs of their ship. "Maybe we could show them our navigation systems. Our jump calculations are pretty accurate." "The Nexari can calculate jumps in their heads," Dong-hyun said. "Our computers would look like pocket calculators to them." Tae-min sat up straighter. "What about our fusion drives? They're efficient and clean-burning." "The Zephyrians have been using fusion power for 3,000 years, Hee-jin pointed out. "They probably have fusion reactors that could power entire planets." The room fell quiet. Outside, an alien maintenance crew was working on a Valkyrian fighter, their tools making sparks that danced in the vacuum of space. Everything they saw reminded them of how far behind humanity was in the galactic community. "What about our adaptive AI systems?" So-young suggested. "The way our computers can learn and adjust to new situations." Dong-hyun pulled up another display. "I've been monitoring alien communication since we arrived. The Altarians have AI that can predict market trends across 17 different sectors simultaneously. Our AI is smart, but it's not that smart." Captain Hyun-woo had been sitting quietly, listening to his crew try to find something impressive about their technology. He understood their frustration. For 3 years, they had been the newest kids in a very old school, and nothing they had seemed good enough. "Captain," Bora said, "what are you thinking?" Hyun-woo stood up and walked to the porthole. "I'm thinking about a conversation I had with Dr. Minho Kang before we left Earth." The crew exchanged glances. Dr. Kang was one of the most brilliant scientists in the Terran Federation, and also one of the most secretive. His research projects were classified at the highest levels. "What did he tell you?" Dong-hyun asked. Instead of answering, Hyun-woo turned to face his crew. "What do you know about our cargo manifest for this trip? Medical supplies, entertainment, programs, and some classified research equipment, Haijin said. Standard diplomatic mission loadout. That classified research equipment, Hyunwoo said slowly, is not what you think it is. He walked over to the wall panel and entered a complex security code. A hidden display appeared, showing a cargo bay deep in the ship that wasn't on any of the standard deck plans. Inside the bay, secured with every safety system the Terran Federation could design, was a crystalline device about the size of a person. The crew stared at the display in silence. "What is that?" So Young whispered. "Dr. Kang calls it a dimensional fold generator," Hyunwoo said. "It's the first successful attempt at practical dimensional engineering." Taemin blinked. "Dimensional engineering? But that's impossible. The Nexari have been trying to figure out dimensional theory for thousands of years." "The Nexari approach the problem mathematically," Dong-hyun said, his voice getting excited. "They try to calculate their way to a solution. But humans? We try things. We experiment. We build something and see if it works." Bora looked confused. "But what does it do?" Hyunwoo turned back to the porthole. "It folds space. Not like our jump drives, which push us through hyperspace. This actually bends the fabric of reality so that two distant points touch each other. That would mean instant travel anywhere in the galaxy," Haijin said. "No jump calculations, no hyperspace routes, no travel time at all. It would also mean instant communication across any distance," So Young added, "and probably a dozen other applications we haven't thought of yet." Taemin stood up and walked to the display. "Captain, if this thing really works, why are we keeping it secret? This could change everything." "Because it could change everything," Hyunwoo replied. Dr. Kang wasn't sure how the galactic community would react to humans suddenly leaping ahead of everyone in the most advanced field of science. Some species might see it as a threat, and some might try to take it from us, Hyejin said grimly. Dong-hyun was studying the technical readouts on the display. "The power requirements are enormous. How does it even function?" "The device creates its own power by tapping into the dimensional fold itself," Hyunwoo explained. "It's completely self-sustaining. Once activated." "This is incredible," Bora said. "But Captain, have you actually seen it work?" Hyunwoo smiled for the first time since the challenge had been issued. "Dr. Kang tested it 3 times before we left Earth. The first test moved a steel ball from his lab in Seoul to his lab in New York. Instantly. The second test moved a data packet from Earth to the Mars research station. Also, instantly." "What was the third test?" So Young asked. "The third test," Hyunwoo said, "was installing a smaller version of the device in this ship." The crew stared at him. "You mean?" Taemin began. "Our jump from Earth to Nexus Station should have taken 6 days using conventional hyperspace routes. How long did it actually take us?" Bora checked her navigation logs. 4 days. I thought we caught a favorable hyperspace current." "There are no hyperspace currents between Earth and Nexus Station," Dong-hyun said slowly. "Captain, are you saying we've been using dimensional fold technology for our entire trip?" "The device has been running on automatic, making small adjustments to our travel time. Nothing dramatic enough to attract attention, but enough to test the system under real conditions." Hae-jin walked over to the display and studied the device more carefully. "Sir, if we reveal this technology, everything changes. Not just for us, but for the entire galaxy." "I know," Hyunwoo said. "The question is, are we ready for that change?" Outside their ship, alien crews continued their work around the station. The Velkarian battlecruiser Dominion's Edge hung in space like a sleeping giant. Zephyrian traders moved their cargo with practiced efficiency. Nexari science vessels hummed with the power of artificial gravity fields. None of them suspected that the small, unremarkable human ship carried technology that could make all of their advanced systems look like stone tools. "Captain," Dong-hyun said, "there's something else to consider. If we show them this technology and they don't believe us, they'll want to examine it closely. Once they understand how it works, they'll be able to build their own versions," Taemin finished. "Humanity's advantage would last maybe a year before everyone else caught up. But if we don't show them anything," So Young pointed out, "we'll be kicked out of the galactic community entirely." Bora was running calculations on her personal tablet. "Captain, there's another problem. If this device really works the way you're describing, the aliens are going to want to know how we developed it so quickly," Humans have only been in space for 3 years. How do we explain suddenly jumping ahead of civilizations that have been working on this problem for millennia? Hyun-woo had been thinking about that same question. We tell them the truth. That sometimes being new to a problem is an advantage. We don't have thousands of years of failed theories holding us back. We can try approaches that older civilizations might think are impossible. Do you really think they'll accept that? Hae-jin asked. I think, Hyun-woo said, looking out at the alien ships surrounding them, that after tomorrow it won't matter what they think. They'll have to accept that humanity belongs in the galactic community. The crew sat in silence for a few minutes, each of them thinking about the choice they faced. They could play it safe and hope for the best, or they could risk everything on a technology that could change the galaxy forever. Sir, Taemin said finally, what do you need us to do? Captain Hyun-woo Park looked at his crew, at the people, who had followed him across the galaxy and trusted him to make the right decisions. Tomorrow, he would either make humanity equal partners in galactic civilization, or he would make them the most dangerous species in known space. We're going to show them what impossible looks like, he said. Cargo Bay Alpha was the largest open space on Nexus Station. It could hold 3 battle cruisers side by side, and its walls were lined with observation platforms for important events. Today, those platforms were packed with aliens from every major species in the coalition. Captain Hyun-woo Park stood in the center of the empty bay floor, wearing his best uniform. Behind him, his crew had arranged the dimensional fold generator on a simple platform. The device looked like a crystal sculpture, all smooth curves and glowing edges. It was beautiful, but to most of the aliens watching, it probably looked like an art project. The observation platforms buzzed with conversation. Most of it was laughter. Look at the little crystal, called out a Zephyrian trade captain. Is that supposed to be their advanced technology? Maybe it's a religious artifact, suggested a Nexari scientist. Primitive species often confuse spirituality with science. Admiral Zekthon sat in the front row of the Valkyrian section, his arms crossed and a smug smile on his face. I must admit, I am curious to see what the humans think will impress us. Perhaps they will claim their crystal can predict the future. More laughter followed. Veltar was taking bets on how long the demonstration would last before the humans gave up in embarrassment. Kixra had brought recording equipment to capture what she expected to be a humiliating failure. Theklon, the station master, stood at the central podium. Representatives of the Galactic Commerce Coalition, he announced. We are gathered here to witness the human demonstration of capability. Captain Park, you may begin when ready. Hyun-woo looked up at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. Some looked amused. Others looked bored. A few looked annoyed that they had to waste time on this pointless exercise. Honored delegates, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the bay's communication system. Humanity wishes to contribute to galactic civilization. Today, we will demonstrate our approach to a problem that has challenged the greatest minds in the galaxy for thousands of years. Dong-hyun stepped forward, carrying a data tablet. We will show you practical dimensional engineering. The laughter that followed was immediate and loud. Several aliens actually fell out of their seats. Others pointed and made jokes in languages the translation system couldn't handle. Dimensional engineering? Zekthon called out between laughs. Humans, dimensional theory is mathematics so complex that even our greatest scientists can only understand small parts of it. You've been in space for 3 years. The Nexari Council has been working on dimensional theory for over 5,000 years, Kixra added. We have rooms full of quantum computers running calculations that take decades to complete. And you think you can just... what? Build a machine that manipulates dimensions? It's not possible, called out an Altarian physicist. The power requirements alone would be beyond anything your species could generate. The mathematics don't even work, added a Valkyrian science officer. We've proven that dimensional folding would require more energy than exists in most solar systems. The mockery continued for several minutes. Hyun-woo waited patiently while aliens explained why what he was proposing was impossible. Some of them were actually getting angry, as if the humans were insulting their intelligence by even suggesting such a thing. Finally, the laughter died down. Theklon looked at Hyun-woo with an expression that might have been pity. Captain Park, Perhaps you would like to reconsider your demonstration. There is no shame in admitting that your species needs more time to develop. We appreciate your concern, Hyun-woo replied calmly. But we would like to proceed with our demonstration. He nodded to Dong-hyun, who began entering commands on his tablet. The dimensional fold generator responded by humming softly, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The problem with dimensional theory, Dong-hyun said, his voice steady despite the hundreds of eyes watching him, is that most species approach it as a mathematical exercise. You try to calculate your way to a solution. The humming grew louder. Several aliens checked their instruments and frowned. The energy readings coming from the human device were higher than they should be. Humans approach problems differently, So Young continued, stepping up to join Dong-hyun. We build things and see if they work. Taemin activated another control on his engineering panel. The crystal device began to glow brighter, and the humming sound changed pitch. Around the cargo bay, sensitive instruments started registering. Readings that shouldn't be possible. Of course, Bora said. Building something that folds space requires understanding that space isn't empty. It's full of energy that we can tap into. On the observation platforms, the laughter was starting to die away. Alien scientists were staring at their instruments with confused expressions. The readings they were getting didn't match anything in their databases. Shai-jin made the final activation. The key is not trying to force reality to bend. The key is asking it politely. The dimensional fold generator suddenly blazed with light that didn't hurt to look at, but seemed to fill the entire cargo bay. The humming sound reached a crescendo and then suddenly stopped, leaving behind a silence that felt deeper than vacuum. In the space above the device, reality began to fold. It started as a shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then the shimmer began to twist and curl, forming a spiral that hurt to look at directly. The spiral grew larger and more complex, until it was clear that they were looking at something that shouldn't exist. A doorway. A doorway through space itself. Through the fold, the observers could see another part of Nexus Station. Specifically, they could see Cargo Bay Beta, which was on the completely opposite side of the station from where they were sitting. The silence in the cargo bay was absolute. Veltar's betting tablet fell from his hands and clattered on the floor. Zekthon's mouth hung open, showing rows of sharp teeth. Chixra's recording equipment was still running, but she was too stunned to notice. "This is a dimensional fold," Hyun-woo said into the silence. "We can create doorways through space that connect any 2 points in the galaxy, instantly!" To prove his point, Bora walked through the fold and appeared in Cargo Bay Beta, visible through the twisted space. She waved at the observers, then stepped back through to rejoin her crew. An Altarian science officer stood up so quickly he knocked over his chair. "That's impossible. The energy requirements alone are provided by the fold itself," Dong-hyun explained. "Once established, a dimensional fold is completely self-sustaining." "But the mathematics," began a Nexari physicist, "don't work using traditional approaches," So Young agreed. "That's why we didn't use traditional approaches. Around the cargo bay, alien instruments were going crazy, energy readings that defied every known law of physics, gravitational distortions that shouldn't exist, quantum signatures that made no sense according to any current theory." Thecalon was the first to find his voice. How is this possible? "Humans have only been studying dimensional theory for 50 years, Timon said. "We don't have thousands of years of failed theories telling us what can't be done." "Sometimes," Hyejin added, "being new to a problem is an advantage." The dimensional fold continued to hang in the air above the device, stable and impossible. Through it, the observers could see maintenance workers in Cargo Bay Beta who had stopped their work to stare at the strange portal that had appeared in their workspace. Kixra stood up slowly, her silver scales reflecting the light from the fold. The implications: instant travel anywhere in the galaxy, instant communication across any distance. This changes everything. "Yes," Hyun-woo said simply. "It does." Admiral Zekthon was running deep scans of the device with every sensor his ship possessed. The results only confirmed what his eyes were telling him. "This is real. This is actually real." "The power output readings are beyond anything in our databases," reported a Velcarian science officer. and the dimensional distortion is mathematically impossible, but it's definitely happening. Around the observation platforms, aliens were talking in excited voices. Some were trying to contact their home governments. Others were recalculating everything they thought they knew about physics. A few were just staring at the dimensional fold in stunned silence. "Captain Park," Teclon said, his voice shaking slightly, "this demonstration, this technology, it's beyond anything any species has achieved." "We know," Hyunwoo replied. "How long have you had this capability?" "This is the first public demonstration," Donghyun said. "But the theory was developed over the past 10 years by Dr. Min-Ho Kang of the Terra Institute." 10 years? Veltar stood up, his golden eyes wide. "You developed dimensional engineering in 10 years? Dr. Kang is very smart," So Young said, with what might have been the understatement of the century. The dimensional fold began to shrink as Tai Min powered down the device. The twisted doorway through space collapsed slowly, like a flower closing its petals. Soon, there was nothing left but the crystal generator sitting on its platform, looking innocent and harmless. But the cargo bay full of aliens would never look at humans the same way again. Hyunwoo looked up at the observation platforms. "Does this demonstration meet the requirements of the capability test?" The silence stretched on for a long moment. Then, one by one, the aliens began to stand. Not to leave, but to applaud. It started. The next 3 hours were chaos. Captain Hyunwoo Park had barely shut down the dimensional fold generator when alien science teams swarmed into Cargo Bay Alpha. They came from every species represented at the station, carrying scanners, analyzers, and instruments that hummed and beeped and flashed with lights. "We need to examine this device immediately," demanded Dr. Vexra, the lead Nexari physicist. Her silver scales were bright with excitement, and her glowing eyes couldn't look away from the crystal generator. "The quantum signatures alone are revolutionary. The energy readings don't match any known power source," added Chief Engineer Kolvan from the Velkarian battlecruiser. His forearms moved constantly as he adjusted his scanning equipment. "How is it generating this much power?" Thekalon stood at the edge of the crowd, trying to maintain order. "Please, honored scientists, allow the human space to answer questions properly." But the aliens weren't listening. They had gone from mocking humanity to treating them like the most important people in the galaxy, and they wanted answers immediately. Admiral Zekthon pushed through the crowd to stand directly in front of Hyunwoo. The massive Velkarian looked confused and angry at the same time. "Captain Park, I need to understand something. Your ship registered as having basic fusion drives and standard hyperspace capabilities. How is this possible if you have dimensional fold technology?" Dong Hyun stepped forward with his data tablet. "Admiral, perhaps it would be easier to show you than to explain." "Show me what?" "Our ship." 20 minutes later, a parade of alien scientists, engineers, and military officers was walking through the corridors of the Terra's Pride. What they found made their earlier shock seem small. The ship looked normal from the outside, but the inside was a revelation. Hidden throughout the vessel were dimensional fold components. Small generators that powered systems that shouldn't exist. Fold tunnels that connected different parts of the ship instantly. Storage spaces that were bigger on the inside than the outside. "This is impossible," whispered a Zephyrian engineer as she examined a storage bay that was clearly larger than the entire ship's hull. "The mathematics don't work." "The mathematics work fine," Taemin replied, opening a panel to show the fold generator hidden behind it. "You just have to stop thinking in 3 dimensions." Bora led a group of navigation experts to the bridge, where she showed them how the ship's dimensional systems had been enhancing their travel. "Every jump we've made in the past 3 years has been partially assisted by fold technology. We've been testing it gradually." "Testing it?" Kixra stared at the navigation displays. "You've been using experimental dimensional technology for 3 years without telling anyone?" "We wanted to make sure it was safe," So Young explained. "And we weren't sure how the galactic community would react to humans suddenly leaping ahead in the most advanced field of science." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Velkarian battlecruiser, Admiral Zekthon was having a very different conversation with his senior staff. "Sir," said his science officer, "the scans are conclusive. The human technology is genuine. They've achieved practical dimensional engineering. How is that possible? Zekthon slammed his fist on the table. We've been studying dimensional theory for 2,000 years. How does a species that learned to fly in space 3 years ago suddenly surpass us? Perhaps, suggested his tactical officer carefully. That's exactly why they succeeded. They didn't have thousands of years of failed theories to hold them back. Zekthon didn't like that answer, but he couldn't argue with it. Back on the Terra's Pride, the examination continued. Alien experts crawled through every section of the ship, documenting everything they found. The more they discovered, the more amazed they became. The dimensional fold generators are integrated into every major system, reported Dr. Vexera. This isn't just a weapon or a drive. It's a complete technological revolution. The implications are staggering, added a Nexari engineer. Instant travel, instant communication, virtually unlimited storage space, power generation that requires no fuel. Veltar was in the ship's communication center with So Young, watching her demonstrate the dimensional communication array. You can send messages instantly across any distance? Within the same galaxy, yes, So Young confirmed. We're still working on intergalactic communication, but that's mostly a targeting problem. A targeting problem, Veltar repeated weakly. You speak of crossing the void between galaxies as if it's a minor technical issue. 3 decks below, He-Jin was showing a group of military officers the ship's defensive systems. What looked like basic armor plating was actually a network of dimensional barriers that could redirect incoming fire into folded space. An energy beam hits our hull and simply disappears, she explained. It's redirected to a pocket dimension where it can't hurt anyone. What about the beam's energy? Asked a Velcarian weapons expert. We use it to power the ship's other systems. The weapons expert sat down heavily in the nearest chair. Back in Cargo Bay Alpha, Hyunwoo was fielding questions from a growing crowd of alien representatives. More ships had arrived at Nexus Station as word spread about the demonstration. Some species were sending their top scientists, others were sending their military leaders. Captain Park, said Ambassador Feltox of the Altarian Council, my government wants to know if humanity would be willing to share this technology. That's a complex question, Hyunwoo replied carefully. We're certainly willing to discuss it. What would you want in return? Asked Trade Commissioner Nexlar from the Zephyrian Consortium. Right now, we want recognition that humanity belongs in the galactic community as equals. The aliens exchanged glances. A few hours ago, they had been debating whether humans deserved to stay in the coalition at all. Now they were negotiating with the most technologically advanced species in known space. Admiral Zekthon appeared at the entrance to the cargo bay, looking grim. Captain Park, I've completed my examination of your vessel. I need to ask you a direct question. Go ahead. Is this the extent of your capabilities, or do you have more surprises waiting for us? Hyunwoo smiled. Admiral, we've been testing this technology for 3 years. Do you really think we stopped with just 1 ship? The blood drained from Zekthon's face. How many ships? The Terra's Pride was the prototype. We have 12 more vessels currently in service with improved systems. And Dr. Kang's team has been working on applications we haven't even tested yet. A Nexari communications officer burst into the cargo bay. Ambassador, urgent message from the Nexari Council. They're ordering an emergency session of the Galactic Senate. This technology, they say it changes the balance of power in the galaxy. Similar messages were arriving for representatives of every species. Home governments that had been treating humanity as a minor curiosity were suddenly paying very close attention. Captain, Teclon said quietly, I think you should know that several military vessels are approaching the station. Some species are concerned about the implications of your technology. Hyunwoo nodded. He had expected this. How long until they arrive? The first ships will be here in 6 hours. Which species? Velcarian, Nexari, and Altarian. Possibly others. Donghyun looked up from his tablet, where he had been monitoring galactic communications. Captain, I'm detecting a lot of encrypted military traffic. Some of it is about us. What kind of traffic? Threat assessments, emergency response protocols, something called Containment Scenario 7. Hye-Jin frowned. That doesn't sound good. It's not, Admiral Zekthon said grimly. Containment, Scenario 7 is what we use when a new species develops technology that could destabilize galactic civilization. The cargo bay fell silent. The excitement of discovery was being replaced by the cold reality of politics and fear. So, Hyunwoo said slowly, some species see our technology as a threat. Some species see any change as a threat, Veltar replied. Others see opportunity. The next few hours will determine which perspective wins. So Young was monitoring communication, channels on her portable unit. Captain, I'm picking up reports from across the galaxy. Word about our demonstration is spreading fast. Some governments are calling emergency sessions. Others are mobilizing their fleets. Are we in danger? Bo-Ra asked. Before Hyunwoo could answer, Taemin's voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain, you need to see this. We're getting a transmission from Earth. On the main display, the face of Dr. Min-Ho Kang appeared. The elderly scientist looked tired but determined. Captain Park, he said, I've been monitoring the situation at Nexus Station. I think it's time you knew the rest of the story. The rest of the story? Hyunwoo asked. The dimensional fold generator you demonstrated today was our smallest, simplest design. We've been building much larger ones. And Captain, we've been building them on Earth. The implications hit everyone at the same time. If humanity could create dimensional folds large enough for ships, they could create them large enough for planets. Earth itself could become unreachable, protected by dimensional barriers that no known weapon could penetrate. Dr. Kang, Hyunwoo said carefully, what exactly are you telling us? The scientist smiled grimly. I'm telling you that humanity is no longer dependent on the goodwill of the galactic community. We can defend ourselves. Around the cargo bay, alien representatives... Look, 3 weeks later, Nexus Station had become the most important place in the galaxy. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood in what used to be a simple conference room, but was now the center of galactic diplomacy. The table had been expanded to accommodate representatives from 47 different species. Translation devices hummed constantly as dozens of languages filled the air. Outside the windows, the largest gathering of ships in recorded history floated in careful formations around the station. Everything had changed. The Zephyrian Consortium formally requests exclusive trading rights for dimensional communication technology, announced Ambassador Lixara, an elegant alien with golden skin and silver hair. 3 weeks ago, she had barely acknowledged human existence. Now she was offering to make humanity rich beyond imagination. The Velkarian Empire counters with an offer of full military alliance, rumbled Admiral Zekthon from across the table. His scarred face was serious, but there was no more mockery in his voice. We will provide protection and support in exchange for joint development of dimensional defense systems. The Nexari Council proposes a scientific exchange program, said Dr. Vexra. Her silver scales seemed brighter than before, as if excitement had given her new energy. Our greatest minds working together to unlock the full potential of dimensional technology. Hyunwoo listened to the offers with careful attention. Each species was trying to position themselves as humanity's primary partner. The same aliens who had laughed at his ship 3 weeks ago were now competing for his friendship. Bo-Ra sat beside him, taking notes on a data tablet. Captain, she whispered, the Altarian offer includes exclusive access to their quantum computing networks. That could advance our research by decades. And the Nexari are offering to share their gravity manipulation technology, added Dong-hyun quietly. Dr. Kang would be very interested in that, but not everyone at the table was offering friendship. In the far corner, representatives from the Corvan hegemony sat in cold silence. They were an old, proud species who had ruled their sector of space for millennia. The idea that upstart humans could surpass them technologically was not something they accepted easily. The hegemony maintains that this technology is too dangerous for any single species to control, declared Supreme Commander Tharkul. His reptilian features were twisted with barely controlled anger. We demand immediate inspection of all human facilities and shared development under galactic oversight. That's not going to happen, Hyejin said firmly. She had been promoted to Chief Security Officer after the demonstration, and she took her new responsibilities seriously. You cannot stand against the combined fleets of the galaxy, Tharkul hissed. We don't have to stand against them, Hyunwoo replied calmly. We just have to step outside their reach. It was true, and everyone in the room knew it. In the 3 weeks since the demonstration, human ships had been appearing and disappearing across the galaxy using dimensional fold technology. They could strike anywhere instantly, or disappear completely if threatened. Traditional military thinking meant nothing when your enemy could step outside normal space. Veltar leaned forward from the Zephyrian section. Perhaps we should focus on cooperation rather than threats. Captain Park, what would humanity require? To share this technology with trusted partners? Trust, Hyunwoo said simply. 3 weeks ago, most of you were voting to kick us out of the galactic community. Now you want to be our best friends. You'll understand if we're a little careful about who we work with. Thecklon, who was serving as the meeting's moderator, activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic shipping. The economic implications are already becoming clear. Human ships are completing trade routes in hours that used to take months. Traditional hyperspace lanes are becoming obsolete. Our shipping companies are losing money every day, complained a Bavarian trade representative. How are we supposed to compete with instant transportation? By working with us instead of against us, So Young suggested. Humanity isn't interested in destroying the galactic economy. We want to improve it. Taiman stood up to address the room. We've been analyzing the potential applications of dimensional fold technology for civilian use. Instant cargo transport, instantaneous emergency services, real-time communication across the galaxy. Everyone benefits. Everyone except those who built their power on controlling space travel, muttered the Corvan representative. Dr. Vexra pulled up her own data display. My analysis suggests that dimensional technology could revolutionize scientific research. Experiments that require resources from multiple star systems could be completed in real time. The advancement of knowledge would accelerate exponentially, which brings us to the central question, Admiral Zekthon said. How do we integrate this technology into galactic civilization without causing chaos? Hyunwoo had been thinking about that question for 3 weeks. Carefully, we start with small-scale applications and gradually expand. We work with species who demonstrate genuine commitment to peaceful cooperation. And species who don't? Asked Ambassador Lixara. They can continue using their existing technology until they decide to join the new age. It was a diplomatic way of saying that humanity would share their advances with friends and leave everyone else behind. The message was clear, and it was having an effect. Even the most stubborn species were beginning to reconsider their positions. A new voice joined the conversation as a holographic projection appeared at the table. Dr. Min-Ho Kang materialized in the empty chair, speaking from his laboratory on Earth. Honored delegates, the elderly scientist said, I've been monitoring your discussions with great interest. I think it's time to share our plans for the next phase of development. The room fell silent. Dr. Kang's appearances had become events that could change the course of galactic history. We are currently constructing dimensional fold facilities on 12 human colonies, he continued. These installations will be capable of transporting entire fleets instantly across the galaxy. More importantly, they will be able to create stable dimensional barriers around our worlds. Barriers? Asked Dr. Vexra. Protective shells that exist partially outside normal space. Our worlds will be unreachable by conventional means, but we will retain the ability to project power anywhere in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Humanity was making itself effectively untouchable while maintaining the ability to influence events everywhere else. Supreme Commander Tharkul stood up abruptly. This is unacceptable. No single species should have such power. You're right. Dr. Kang agreed. That's why we're not keeping it to ourselves. He activated another display showing the current status of human diplomatic outreach. We are currently working with 6 species who have demonstrated genuine commitment to peaceful cooperation. They will receive dimensional fold technology and the protection it provides. Which species? Demanded the Corvan commander. Those who earn it, Hyunwoo said simply. The meeting continued for another 4 hours, but the essential framework was becoming clear. Humanity was offering to share the most revolutionary technology in galactic history, but only with species who proved themselves worthy partners. The age of automatic respect based on technological age was over. Now, respect would be earned through actions. As the session finally ended, representatives began filing out to consult with their governments. Some looked excited by the possibilities. Others appeared worried about their species' future in this new reality. "Captain," Veltar said as he passed Hyunwoo's chair, "the Zephyrian Consortium would like to invite you to our homeworld. We have proposals that might interest you." "We'll consider it," Hyunwoo replied. Dr. Vexra approached next. "The Nexari Council is prepared to offer full access to our research archives. 5,000 years of scientific knowledge, freely shared. That's a generous offer. We believe in the advancement of knowledge for all species. Perhaps humanity shares that belief?" Even Admiral Zekthon stopped to speak with him. "Captain, I want you to know that the Velkarian Empire no longer sees humanity as a junior partner. We see you as equals, and we hope to prove ourselves worthy of your friendship." "Admiral," Hyunwoo said, "3 weeks ago you were laughing at our ship." "3 weeks ago I was a fool," Zekthon replied. "I hope I've learned better." After the last delegate had left, the human crew gathered in the empty conference room. Through the windows, they could see alien ships departing to carry news of the meeting to every corner of the galaxy. "So," Taemin said, "we've gone from being the galaxy's newest species to being its most powerful. How does that feel?" "Terrifying," Bora admitted. "A month ago, we were worried about being kicked out of the galactic community. Now, we're reshaping it. It's a big responsibility," So-young agreed. "Every decision we make affects billions of lives across dozens of worlds." Dong-hyun was studying his data tablet. "Dr. Kang wants us to return to Earth for the next phase of testing. He says we're ready to attempt intergalactic dimensional folds." "Intergalactic?" Hae-jin raised an eyebrow. "As in, travel to other galaxies? As in, making the entire universe accessible to intelligent life?" The crew sat in silence for a moment, contemplating the scope of what they had unleashed. Dimensional fold technology wasn't just changing galactic civilization. It was opening up possibilities,